You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely. Hello. Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. Today is October 12th, 2023. And you are live here with News Hawks, Glenn Prentice, and myself, Reverend Cindy, from the Legacy420.com news desk. And we are live, as well as CBGTV.com. We are live here on all of the different networks, all over the place. Seek and ye shall find us. It's really not that hard. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you today?
I'm pretty amazing today, actually. Yeah, I have finished up the first module of my cacao course. It, basically the first module is us doing the medicine to see, so we can experience its love and how it works. So yeah, we finished up our fifth and final integration call today, and it was incredibly powerful for me. So I'm kind of like riding on that. How are you?
On a high today, are you? I'm doing great. I'm doing absolutely great. I have heat in my shop for the first time ever, and I really, really like it.
Yeah.
I have air conditioning in here too, which is amazing, but I don't need it right now.
No, the heat is much more important at the moment. Yeah. So that's really, really wonderful. That's pretty exciting. Another piece of exciting news for me is 10 days from now, I'm heading to Montreal to pick up Mary Lou too.
You are.
I am.
And heading right past here on your way home.
Well, yes. So I will definitely be stopping in. I got to see this garage that I am very, in a positive way, envious about it. It's, I got to walk in and go, oh, I want this.
You'd be very disappointed right now. It's the biggest mess I've ever had because we're putting a bathroom and a little apartment kind of thing in here, and it's stuff everywhere.
Yeah, well, that's what happens with the renovations. It gets messy before it gets done, and then it's beautiful.
I have a huge shop with no space to put anything left because all my stuff for what we're doing is here. Yeah.
But once that's done, your space will be back, and it'll be I have a wonderful imagination, so I'll be able to see past all of that and still go, wow.
That's a good thing. Bring that imagination.
I will. We might as well hop right into it. We got 8 stories coming to you during the show. So we might as well head over to the first one coming to us from CTV News. It's now 5 years later, and researchers say the impacts of legalizing cannabis in Canada have been mixed.
5 years after Canada's move to decriminalize the recreational use of cannabis, researchers say the policy's impact has mixed success on public health goals and justice reform since 2018. According to a report by the Canadian Medical Association Journal published on Tuesday, trends over the last few years have seen fewer incriminating activity related to cannabis use, as well as increasing health concerns.
I didn't even hear the second paragraph because I'm going back to this. 5 years after Canada's moved to decriminalize, they did not move to decriminalize. They moved to legalize so they could control it.
That's right.
So CTV, you should really watch your language there. Just because, that's what they did. They didn't. If they decriminalized it, life would be so different right now.
Yes.
For the cannabis industry, that is. And cannabis legalization, there we go, we've got that better, in Canada appears not to have been the public health disaster anticipated by some of its opponents. But it cannot be described comprehensive or unequivocal success for public health either, the study authors wrote. While the daily use of cannabis among users has remained stable since legalization, Statistic Canada reported an overall increase of cannabis use from 22% to 27% among Canadians aged 16 and older between 2017 and 2022. Use among Canadian youth meanwhile, has remained at a similar levels of 37% of 16 to 19-year-olds reported using cannabis in 2022 compared to 36% in 2018.
Since legalization, one report found emergencies related to cannabis-linked disorders and poisoning among youth in Ontario and Alberta rose to 20%. A separate report analyzing unintentional cannabis poisoning from edibles among children in Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia and Quebec found these emergency visits increased substantially since edibles were legalized in 2019. A total
let me just interrupt and say that's due to parents not, storing it properly.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I'm sure, ATV accidents have increased as more ATVs became available. So it's the same kind of thing, right? A total of 581 pediatric hospitalizations were reported since 2015. 105 were reported during the first 14 months of legalization, and 356 were reported during the first 19 months of the legalization of edibles.
Lock your cabinets, folks.
It is a concern, but it's something that can be overcome very easily.
Oh, super easily. Lock your cabinets. It's as simple as that. Just keep it away, keep it up, keep it high. Educate your kids to not touch, the parents' stuff, etc., etc. Health Canada has previously warned cannabis users and those with children to beware of edible products that look like ordinary candy or pastries and are packaged into colorful, sometimes familiar-looking snacks to most. However, there have been some improvements to the frequency of Canadians purchasing illegal produced cannabis since legalization. As data has shown, 2/3 of users purchase cannabis products from legal sources now.
Additionally, levels of driving impairment over cannabis use has slightly decreased, or at least stabilized in most parts of the country, except for British Columbia, where rates for impaired drivers increased between 2018 and 2020, in comparison between 2013 and 2018. A separate report from the Canadian Centre on Substance Use and Addiction also reported a drastic 97% reduction in cannabis possession charges among youth between 2015 and 2019. Additionally, trafficking and sales charges among youth also increased from 12 to 8%.
Well, that's nice. The study authors noted that while Canada's legalization of non-medical cannabis has resulted in mixed outcome, the last 5 years can't surmise the policy's full impact on Canadians. Robust ways to integrate diverse data when evaluating policy outcomes are also needed to inform evidence-based adjustments to regulatory parameters that may be necessary to more effectively serve and achieve the declared public health objectives of cannabis legalization in Canada going forward, the authors wrote. Yeah, so I get what they're saying, about the kids, and this is just a study telling us what has happened. But as far as I'm concerned, it really points out that parents need to, or adults, whether it's parents or grandparents, because I am a grandparent, they need to lock up their stash.
Yeah.
I keep mine in a room where my grandkids aren't allowed to go in. And I will, I've actually got a lock being installed in the next little bit because, they will hit teenagers, age soon. And then it's different, right? And, it's not out of not knowing, it is out of very well knowing exactly what is in Nana's room. Curiosity's hit, and that's not up to me. So I have to keep my doors locked.
I have five children, and all raised in our house, all at the same time, basically, over a period of 15 or so years. Not one ever got into anything except for maybe stealing a little bit of my actual cannabis when they were 18 or so. Other than that, everything we ever had, cookies or anything, was plainly marked on the bag, big X, don't use it. And I talked to my children about it.
Exactly, right?
So they knew exactly what it was. And it was my medicine, not theirs, not to touch it, that it was dangerous. That's all it required.
That's it.
All it required.
Education. And if you need a locked cabinet, it's actually pretty simple to keep your kids out of your cannabis, for sure. Heading over to our next story, it's coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. Canadian cannabis farms eligible for federal funding via a $3.5 billion program.
Canadian cannabis growers and processors are eligible to apply for funding under the new 3.5 billion Canadian dollar Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership Program, if certain conditions are met. The administrator of the initiative, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, told MJ Biz Daily. Any prospective sources of news funding would be welcome news for Canada's smaller cannabis growers and processors, many of which are struggling under the persistent deflationary and ultra-competitive pressures, plus tight funding from private sector lenders. And I would also say a lot of red tape and a lot of tax.
It's the government. There's always red tape.
Yeah.
Financing from the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, which is the Sustainable CAP program, is in addition to other sources of federal funding, while Canadian cannabis companies have already been tapping, or which cannabis companies have already been tapping. Holy Joe, Cindy, learn how to talk again. Including the Industrial Research Assistance Program, the IRAP, a Federal Innovation Assistance Program for small and medium-sized businesses, the National Research Council Canada, the NRC, the nation's primary research agency, which helps small and medium-sized businesses, and there is also the Scientific Research and Experimental Development, the SR&ED tax incentives, which is a federal program focused on boosting research and development. Well, I didn't know that they have been able to tap into all that. Good.
I didn't know that till now. This is my learning moment again. A Sustainable CAP program is a joint federal provincial initiative under Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, the department of the government responsible for agriculture. Cannabis Council of Canada CEO George Smitherman told MJ Biz Daily it's a great step that cannabis companies are eligible for the programs. It's a great step. So is this a change in the eligibility?
It's a first step towards the change, I guess. It is a key adjustment in the openness of the agricultural department to recognize that cannabis is a value-added agricultural commodity, Smitherman said via email. The Cannabis Council of Canada is the national industry group representing the interest of dozens of the nation's licensed producers and processors.
The Sustainable CAP program, which replaced the Canadian Agricultural Partnership earlier this year, runs from April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2028. It includes Canadian $1 billion in programs and activities directly administered by the federal government, and another $2.5 billion commitment for programs that are cost shared and managed by provinces and territories.
So far, there have not been any projects with cannabis companies under federal programs of the Sustainable CAP. One of the federal Sustainable CAP program cannabis-related businesses might be eligible for is the Agri-Assurance Program.
That program has two components, the National Industry Association and the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise. A spokesman for Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada said the NIA component funds projects at the national level to help industry develop and adopt system standards and tools to support health and safety claims about Canadian agricultural and agri-food products.
The small and medium-sized enterprise component aims to support for-profit SMEs to help implement assurance projects that address market and regulatory requirements. Cannabis operations would be eligible to apply for funding under both the Agri-Innovative Program and the Agri-Science Program, the spokesperson said, provided the proposal fits within the objective of the program. They are licensed establishments and their activity is aligned with their Health Canada license.
Applicants to Sustainable CAP programs are assessed on a case-by-case basis and judged according to the respective program's funding criteria. The spokesperson said applicants must already have required licenses, any required licenses.
Yes. To be eligible, businesses should also be in compliance with legislation and regulations, including the Federal Cannabis Act, as well as provincial laws and regulations. And MJ Biz Daily has inquired with provincial governments about the eligibility criteria for cannabis companies. And the first of those stories is available there. Well, that's pretty cool. Takes you right to the other stories if you're curious.
Yep. Maybe I should have put that in the next story. Never thought of that.
Oh, well, Something for Monday or next Thursday for sure. Clicking buttons, I'm getting here. We are heading over now to StratCan. We're going to learn that BC First Nation utilizing new sovereign edible store next to their own provincially licensed retail store.
A First Nation-owned cannabis producer and retailer is now taking what they say is a hybrid approach to cannabis sales on their reserved lands. Williams Lake First Nation is the signatory of the first government-to-government agreement with the province of British Columbia under the Section 119 of BC's Cannabis Control and Licensing Act, and owns and operates cannabis retailer Unity Cannabis, as well as the cannabis producer and brand Sugarcane Cannabis on WLFN reserve land on a large lot just south of the downtown Williams Lake. The two businesses share a large parking lot.
Gee, I think I need to go for a drive when I'm out there in November. The First Nation also recently opened a new retail store in that same parking lot that sells edibles that are otherwise not available through the BC LDB supply chains. Kirk Dressler, the Director of Legal and Corporate Services with the Williams Lake First Nation and the CEO of Unity Cannabis and Sugarcane Cannabis, says the new hybrid retail model is one born of both economic necessity, and as a response to a recent BC court ruling, according to Dressler, the new store will initially carry a limited selection of edibles that have demand in the WLFN community and in other Indigenous communities. He also decrees the amount of plastics and other packaging required for edibles under federal regulations, saying that the products sold at the WLFN sovereign store seek to address the issue.
That is one absolute ludicrous thing with Cannabis New Brunswick. The packaging is insane.
And that's any cannabis legal store, because the LPs have to follow a certain protocol. So any legal store has all of this product with all of this extra packaging. It's gross.
They have to change that. We're eliminating bags we can't carry our groceries home because of the plastic. But you go to one of these stores and everything is in plastic. It's insane. According to Dressler, the new store will initially carry a limited selection of edibles and have demand in. Oh, sorry, you read that. From an economic standpoint, Dressler says both Sugarcane and Unity Cannabis are facing the challenges with slim profit margins and increasing price compression, making it difficult to compete. WLFN has engaged the province on the issue multiple times to address the issue and to push the government on the cannabis-related commitments in its DRIPA action plan. But Dressler says the response from the government has not been satisfactory. Since the province has in the past said they are not seeking to actively enforce their own provincial retail rules on First Nation land, WLFN is utilizing this new hybrid retail space to exercise what they say is their sovereign right to sell cannabis on their own land without provincial oversight, and they're right.
Absolutely. I mean, once you hit Ontario, it is just riddled with Indigenous. Riddled. As soon as I hit Ontario, I could type in cannabis store into my GPS, and there was the odd legal store, but we're talking just take your pick of Indigenous stores.
Right? I prefer them because I like to smell and I like to see what I'm actually purchasing.
There are things that I like about both. Don't get me wrong. I shop in both, but I like having that choice. It's really amazing to have that choice. I don't want to go buy 10 milligram edibles. My tolerance is low, but it's not that low. So the 10 milligram edibles, I agree, should be out there for new users. We should educate, we should tell them. But for people who know what they need, come on, put it out there, put it on the shelves. And the only people that are doing it and are able to do it because of their treaty rights, are the Indigenous people. And once you hit Ontario, you have choices. And they go straight through Quebec. And New Brunswick is riddled with them, and Nova Scotia is riddled with them, which I find absolutely shocking, because as the East Coast people, we have been looking at Vancouver especially in the cannabis world, going, "Oh, we're going to catch up to you someday, dude. We really are." Yeah. And to think that we're ahead in this particular area is just, for me, it's mind blowing. You know what I mean? So
the selection on the reserves around me is probably 10 times anything Cannabis New Brunswick has.
Oh,
to me, it's great.
Yeah. Unfortunately, here in Nova Scotia, there's when you walk into the Indigenous stores, the selection is much less. But I still like having the option to go there. The edibles are way better. And the concentrates, like the vapes, you know, if I want to get a vape, there's more selection there. And I find that, you know, I get stuff that tastes better. But so it's pick and choose. But the point is, you know, they should be able to do it. It doesn't matter what the selection is or isn't. Like, I mean, that's kind of like, you know, off to the side there. The point is they should be allowed to do it. And I can't believe BC's finally catching up with the East Coast.
And I have to say one thing. There's a new store in Fredericton, right? This is the capital of New Brunswick, right downtown Fredericton. There's a new store called Big Buds. It is an Indigenous owned and ran dispensary. And it is in a plaza right in the middle of town. It's not on Indigenous lands. And I tried to ask the person that was salesperson there, how are they achieving this? How are they doing it without the police involvement? And he couldn't tell me. He was just a guy working there. But I'm going to find out how they're doing that. I'm curious.
It's because they are on Indigenous land.
They're not.
But they are.
No, this one here is.
Let me argue
I know what you mean.
That point. We are on Turtle Island, my friend.
Yes.
We are on Indigenous land.
Yeah, if you take it that way, yes, for sure.
Which we are. Like, the government is slowly. If you watch anything happening, most people, when they start a speech or something, they will, you know, give homage to the fact that they are on Turtle Island, and that's all we needed. The government has said, we are on Indigenous land. We are blah, blah, blah. You know, you're right.
This is the first time, though,
but this is Indigenous land.
Yeah. This is the first time I've seen one that's off a reserve. That's what I'm trying to say.
We have
three off the reserve?
Off the reserve, the reserve. But they are big signs in their windows. I'll go take a picture. Big signs in their windows saying that they are operating under their treaty rights because it is all Indigenous land. And I am like, yes.
Well, my son's been asking me, trying to convince me for a year or two to open up a store. We're both Indigenous, and I didn't think it was possible, but now I'm starting to think it is.
It's exciting. It's super exciting. But we could go on with that subject for a while, and we have for a few minutes. So I need to continue the story. Although I'd love to stay on this subject because it's exciting. WLFN is in a position where it might be one of those that is forced to exit the industry. Dressler explains that is not acceptable. We've invited the province to look at fair and reasonable solutions. The province has refused to collaborate in any meaningful way, despite the fact that the province has an obligation under the DRIPA to do so, and has agreed that it must do so. We've advised them that this leaves us no option but to contemplate what steps we can take to utilize our jurisdiction to make our operation more viable. The province has nodded their head and acknowledged that that seems to be a reasonable response. That's the inference we've drawn. So we are in fact proceeding to do so. He says the WLFN is taking steps to ensure that they are still adhering to the rules of their Section 119 agreement, and the Unity Cannabis and Sugarcane Cannabis operations are entirely unaffected by the establishment of the new store.
What we are contemplating at that point is a hybrid system that would continue to respect the commitments we have in our 119 agreement, but it would also allow Williams Lake First Nation to utilize its jurisdiction to develop a cannabis-related enterprise that might generate revenue sufficient to sustain our global cannabis operation. The store bills itself as an edible store and promises the cheapest edibles in town. Dresser says all products sold within the store will come with COAs.
Awesome. Like I said, I am going to look them up, and I am going to take a drive when I am out there next. That is just super exciting.
Take some pictures.
Oh, you know I will. I'm going to go back up to, like I said, when we were reading that story, I'm very excited. And I love that that the Indigenous people, here in Nova Scotia and now in New Brunswick, are grabbing hold of the fact that it doesn't matter where they are on sovereign Indigenous ground. The reserve might be over there, but it is all Indigenous ground. And I love the fact that they're finally standing up and taking advantage of that. And I'm going to shut up now because otherwise I'll keep going.
Okay, I had stuff to say, but I'll do
Go for it, as long as it's not me.
I'm just wondering how the police are dealing with this, because they're not known for restraint off the reserve. And I don't see any problem so far with this place that's opened here.
No, I mean, like I stand with them. I get where they're coming from. They here in Nova Scotia, like I said, they have that one particular line, and it takes up the whole window. I'll go get a picture of the one in Dartmouth. I haven't been to the other ones yet, but I'm going. But I'm really excited that they're doing this. Somebody sadly has to be the martyr. So one of these people will get raided, and they will go to court, and they will be the martyr. And I hope that their chief and council stand behind them, because that's what's going to help them.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, Cindy, move on to the next story before you get going. We're heading over to the Times Colonist. This story, I'm really excited about this too. This is another big step forward. Victoria Cannabis Conference first in BC to allow sampling after change to regulations.
Cannabis convention attendees in Victoria could freely sample the goods on display for the first time in BC after the province changed its rules last month to allow for licensed producers to provide samples for retailers. On Monday, smoke curled out of a fenced-off area in the Victoria Conference Centre's courtyard, set aside for that purpose at the Grow Up Conference and Expo, the first cannabis industry event to take advantage of the new regulations.
Yes. Yes. This makes me so excited. Karma Cup's going to come back. Randy Rowe, president of the Grow Up Conference and Expo, says it's a major move for the BC cannabis industry, for the whole cannabis industry. Imagine if you've got a product and you can't show it to somebody, or they have to buy it to see if they like it. That's a huge disadvantage. And you and I were talking about that earlier. We want to see now. Yeah. But with the new regulations around sampling for retailers, at least, licensed cannabis producers can now make better sales pitches, he said.
Cannabis stores are not allowed to provide samples to customers in BC, but the trickle-down effects from fewer barriers between producers and retailers could mean better offerings, Rowe said. It's something that Rowe is keen to facilitate. The industry got a boost for years when Canada looked like it was set to legalize the production and sale of cannabis. It was kind of like a gold rush, he said. Legalization came in 2018.
While the COVID-19 pandemic took the wind out of the industry events, cannabis consumption remains steady, according to 2022 StatsCan data. Annual sales of legal non-medicinal cannabis totaled around $4 billion in Canada. Cannabis industry events have yet to recover to their pre-pandemic heights, but still play an important role, he said.
A cannabis grower might need 2 weeks to visit every cannabis retailer on Vancouver Island if there weren't industry events such as Grow Up to bring the two parties together. Rose said, it's very reasonable, very personable industry. You need to be out and talking to people. The camaraderie was evident on the convention floor, where 50 vendors and the approximately 1,000 attendees mingled during the 3-day conference.
Oh, it would have been so amazing. I wish I had been closer. I would have gone. While greeting old friends, Marshall Marshall of Nature's Gate, a micro cannabis grower based in the Cowichan Valley, told Times Colonist that he's optimistic about the industry. Europe is opening up. Australia has a market. There's lots of opportunity, he said, adding that islanders also appreciate consuming local product. There's a long history here on Vancouver Island of great producers and great genetics. So hence why this conference is here.
Violet Wild Cannabis Co., based in Chemanas, was recognized as Independent Retailer of the Year by Grow Up on Sunday. Co-owner Tara Maybach said it's because her store focuses on direct deliveries, good customer service, and highlights local craft growers. Clients are going that way with their buying trends.
Absolutely. She said that she likes to source from BC and points to Souk, Salt Spring Island, and Texida Island as the major local cannabis producing areas. The biggest challenge is dealing with the high excise tax and keeping up with the ever-changing regulations, she said.
Maybach points to the new sampling regulations as an example. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of tracking, a nominal fee that's not specified. We have been doing sampling since the beginning of time, she said. It doesn't have to be figured out. This is true.
The conference made nods to cannabis production and consumption in Canada before it was legalized. Tommy Chong, who's 85, of the comedy duo Cheech and Chong fame, was a main speaker at the event. And I'm going to steal the last paragraph here. Ted Smith, who was the founder of the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, and which is Canada's oldest unlicensed compassion club, received a Lifetime Achievement Award for his longtime advocacy of cannabis use. You know, and the fact that he helps just so many people. Ted definitely deserved that award.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he's always there to help people, and you know, he's gone through pure hell to do it through raids and cops and everything. So yeah, Ted definitely deserved that. But that means we've done 4 stories and it's break time. So we got to go play a commercial. We got to, you know, pay the sponsors, make them happy. You know, and it's time to hear, time for us to hear from those folks. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis educational news found here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. We'll be back in 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique.
Or we'll just
Organic cannabis is what you seek. Here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
I sat down just in time. I'm so happy. Welcome back to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News as we get started into the second half of our program and the next 4 stories. I was even smart enough to get it ready to add to screen before I ran off to the washroom. We are heading over to Simon and Schultzer, and we're going to talk about an American cannabis story.
The reversal of cannabis laws and the outright legalization of cannabis in a growing number of states has converted cannabis cultivation from a clandestine backwoods operation into a mainstream multi-billion-dollar agricultural business. An American Cannabis Story details the backstory and methods of Puffin Farm, one of America's first legal cannabis pioneers, and swings open the gate onto the previously unseen world of a blossoming American weed culture. With unprecedented exclusive access, author and photographer David Goodman reveals the never-before-seen world of America's green rush. In words and stunning photos, an American Cannabis Story will forever change the way you see and understand cannabis. Welcome to Puffin Farm, one of Washington State's first legitimate cannabis businesses and the brainchild of growers Jade Stefano and Ben Short, the couple at the center of this cannabis adventure and the driving force behind one of the world's purest, organic, top quality cannabis.
Wow. Open the book and discover detailed first-person text and jaw-dropping beautiful photographs of the behind-the-scenes cultivation, extraction, and processing of the finest grade sun-grown organic cannabis on the market. This is not your average cannabis farm. And Goodman makes that point by taking you deep into the operations of this sun and earth certified grower. Unlike the backwoods pot field operation of yore, Goodman's photographs of the sweeping sun-drenched fields and gorgeous up-close plant studies provide a surprisingly wholesome view into modern American organic cannabis cultivation. A first-of-its-kind book, An American Cannabis Story, explores the founders' odyssey, beginning when they met in high school at the tender age of 14, and shows how the pair went on to develop a multi-award-winning learn how to speak, Cindy. How the pair went on to develop multi-award-winning techniques and skills that led them to becoming among the most respected cannabis growers in the USA.
Thanks to Goodman's close relationship with these cannabis pioneers, the reader is privy to everything that goes into the cultivation of cannabis. Goodman trains his lens on all the goings-on at the farm, as well as on the proud young farm workers, following a full season's crop progress from seed to cure. Further chapters cover the processes that go into the making of all the various products, with beautifully detailed photo spreads of the manufacture of bubble hash, vaping oil, rosin, and pre-roll joints, among others. An American Cannabis Story is an in-depth look at a cannabis industry's wholesome new attitude, packed with stunning images and filled with the hopes and dreams of today's new green entrepreneurs.
Wow.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah, sounds like a good book.
And I've never heard of this farm, and I'm learning more. Every day I learn more stuff. Puffin Farm. I have to look that up.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like a good book, and I'm excited to get a gander at it for sure. We are now heading over to the BBC News. Safe daily limit of CBD cut by regulator.
UK food regulators have lowered the recommended safety dose of cannabinol, CBD, and cannabis extract present in many different high street products, including drinks and snacks. The food agency says the advice is precautionary, following concerns long-term use might cause liver and other health problems.
Adults are being advised to have no more than 10 milligrams. CBD a day. The previous recommendation safe daily dose from 2020 was 70 milligrams. Well, that's not much. And the FSA is warning some products available in shops and online contain more than 10 milligrams of CBD per serving, which is about 4 to 5 drops of 5% CBD oil.
FSA Chief Scientific Advisor, Professor Robin May, said, the more CBD you consume over your lifetime, the more likely you are to develop long-term adverse effects like liver damage or thyroid issues. The level of risk is related to how much you take, in the same way it is with some other potentially harmful products, such as alcoholic drinks. Wow.
The only thing that makes any sense in my head is that the tincture that they are talking about is made with alcohol. And they're thinking that the alcohol that they use to make this tincture might be causing some adverse effects, because CBD won't do that. Like, I'm honestly baffled here right now. Like, you guys can see me. My jaw has been hitting the floor.
I've never heard of it.
No, it's Yeah, no, I'm in a little bit of shock. My apologies for my kind of, denseness at the moment, because this makes no sense to me. 2 independent committees review the scientific evidence, including data submitted by manufacturers of CBD products. The FSA, which has been regulating the CBD market since 2019, says there appears to be no acute safety risk from consuming more than 10 milligrams of CBD a day, but regular consumption above this level could pose health risks.
Derived from cannabis, but without psychoactive properties, CBD is sold in some pharmacies and health food shops as a supplement and is used to treat conditions such as pain and insomnia. CBD products can be sold as oils, drops, tinctures and sprays, gel capsules, sweets and confectionery, bread and other bakery goods, and drinks.
Wow, I'm lost to where you just read that.
Certain groups of people, including children, pregnant women, and people taking other medications, are advised not to use CBD.
So it was, the Association of the Cannabinoid Industry said it would examine the evidence behind the FSA recommendations. The recommendation is only advisory. Regulators are not requesting that any products are taken off shelves.
Wow. We highlight that consumers in this guidance demonstrates the FSA still considers CBD to be safe, and their advice relates to lifetime consumption of daily high doses of CBD, a spokesperson said. That's the one. Emily Miles, CEO of the FSA, said, "We are understanding that this change to our advice will have implications for products currently on the market and that contain more than 10 milligrams of CBD per serving."
Yeah, we will be working closely with industry to minimize the risk to ensure consumers are not exposed to potentially full levels of CBD. I don't even honestly know really what to say. So I'm just going to go to the next story because I'm honestly in shock with that last story. I don't know where they're getting the information from. That's just crazy. We're sticking with the BBC News. UK's first consumption room for illegal drugs given a go-ahead.
I wonder if you're allowed to have CBD in there. The UK's first official consumption room for illegal drugs, including heroin and cocaine, has been approved by authorities in Glasgow. The facility is backed by the Scottish government as a way to tackle the country's drug deaths crisis.
Yeah, well, good. The pilot scheme will be based at a health center in the East End of Glasgow. It will see users take their own drugs under supervision of trained health professionals. I hope, I hope that they also have a way to test the drugs as well to make sure that they're safe.
It sounds like they're just saying bring your own and consume your own, so they're not liable that way.
No, but what I mean is, because here in Canada, you can take your own to get them tested to make sure they don't have fentanyl in them. And I'm hoping that they offer that service.
I would love to know what percentage of users are actually doing that. I'm really curious about that.
I don't think we'll ever know.
Yep. Glasgow's Integration Joint Board, which brings together NHS and council officials, ratified the plans at an online meeting on Wednesday morning. And it's hoped that the project, which is funded by the Scottish government, will be opened by next summer and will run for an initial 3 years at a total cost of £7 million.
Dr. Sackett, Associate Medical Director of Glasgow Alcohol and Drug Recovery Services, told the gathering the project would reduce drug-related harms for individuals as well as providing them with opportunities for treatment, care, and recovery. A report on the facility prepared by officials from the NHS of Glasgow City Council said it aimed to tackle the problem of approximately 400 to 500 people injecting drugs in public places in Glasgow City Centre on a regular basis.
The idea has been discussed for years, but it's able to go ahead now after Scotland's senior law officer said users would not be prosecuted for possessing illegal drugs while at the facility. I wonder about going to the facility.
Or leaving.
Yeah, the guidance issued to prosecutors by the Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain, KC, earlier this month stated it would not be in the therapeutic interest or in the public interest to bring proceedings in such cases. She's right.
Yeah. proposed, so they've got some proposed site of Scottish drug room pilot, no prosecution plan for drug consumption rooms, and could drug consumption rooms become legal? These are just like 3 little links here that you can, if you want to go back to the story and go take a look, they're there. Absolutely. The Glasgow consumption room would be based at Hunter Street in the east end of the city, alongside a clinic where 23 long-term drug users are currently prescribed pharmaceutical heroin. Jade, who is 33, a drug user in the East End, described it as a brilliant idea, which would make a massive, massive difference.
She told the BBC News that she had used heroin and cocaine to block out trauma from her past and had witnessed as many loved ones dying as a result of drug addiction. My ex-partner died of drugs. My dad died. He was an addict. My sister passed away. A lot of my friends have passed away, she said.
Sadly, that's it happens. Users will be able to inject drugs at the Glasgow facility, but a proposal for a room where they can smoke illegal substances has been removed from original plans. And this doctor, again, because I can't pronounce his last name, Dr. Sackett, said that was because of the legal issues posed by Scottish anti-smoking legislation, as well as a technical challenge with ventilation and filtration. Maybe they can come up with maybe I don't know, maybe they have a backyard or a back alley, go to back door, maybe they can put up a couple of tents there and at least give people a safe spot where they're still close to that facility. Do you know what I mean?
Yep, definitely. They should have a rooftop or a backyard or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's maybe something they can add later anyway. Yeah. Cecilia O'Lone, who's the Labour councillor for the Calton ward, where the facility is located, told the board meeting that there was some concern in the community about the plans. There always is. If we don't take the community with us, it's like leaving it open to fail because it can be stigmatized, she told the meeting.
Well, part of the reason of doing this is to get rid of that stigmatization. Like it is a health issue. It's not a legal issue. Susan Miller, who is the chief officer of Glasgow's Health and Social Care Partnership, said engagement would begin immediately with an initial community meeting scheduled for Thursday. And she promised clear mechanisms for quickly sorting any issues that might arise.
The consumption room is part of a wider move by the Scottish government to tackle a crisis, which is claiming more lives per head than anywhere else in Europe. Drug deaths peaked at 1,339 in 2020 before falling slightly in 2021 and then dropping by about a fifth in 2022 to 1,051. Since then, preliminary figures suggest they have begun to creep up again.
The consumption room plan is supported by Scottish National Party, Labour and Liberal Democrat politicians, by the UK Home Office. But the UK Home Office insists there is no safe way to take illegal drugs, which I agree. But if you can test them to make sure they're not full of fentanyl, or at least tell them that they're full of fentanyl so they can take less, and have medical professionals right there if they're ODing, it does give them a safer space, and it gives them the position is shared by Anne-Marie Ward, who is the chief executive of the charity, Faces and Voices of Recovery UK, which helped draft the Right to Recovery bill tabled at Holyrood last year by the Scottish Conservatives.
And Mrs. Ward said the SNP was playing politics by calling the Westminster, or for Westminster, to amend the 1971 Misuse of Drug Acts to decriminalize possession of drugs, a move rejected by the UK government. Instead, she said the Scottish government should be focusing not just on harm reduction, but also on treatment, prevention, dissuasion, and reintegration of users into society.
Yeah, they are stoking a constitutional debate about independence, unfortunality, and that's at the cost of the people's lives. Last week, Elena Whitman, Minister for Drugs and Alcohol Policy, told the Scottish Parliament the war on drugs is over. No one won. And the main casualties were not the organized criminals, but the poorest and the most vulnerable.
She's dead right with that one. We know that Scotland as a nation needs to do something different. And within the confines of the law, Police Scotland is going to be a part of that. Working in partnership, said Deputy Chief, I guess that Deputy Chief Constable, maybe? Malcolm Graham, head of the local policing at Police Scotland. He insisted the force would continue to crack down on drug dealers, but added that supply was only part of the problem.
Yeah. We need to tackle the demand, and we also need to tackle the harm, said Mr. Graham, adding, there is no single answer to this problem that our nation faces. Absolutely. We have to help the people detox. We have to help the people fix what was broken that made them want to do the drugs. And if those people no longer want the drugs, well, the people supplying them are going to go out of business, like any business. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Scottish Tory Health spokesperson, Dr. Shandis Gulhane, said he was happy for the pilot to be considered as a range of measures to tackle drug deaths, but added that the party still had serious reservations about how effective drug consumption rooms will be in reality. Well, let's try. Let's see what happens.
Yep. The MSP said the facility should not be seen as a silver bullet to tackle this crisis. He called the government back to back the Tory right to recovery bill, which would enshrine in law access to treatment for those struggling with drug addiction. Wow.
Yeah. So not really cannabis related, but I still think a very important story. And I'm really, really glad that we got the chance to read that. I think it's something that cannabis and psychedelics, as, things are made more clear as we go on, is something that's going to help in these rooms, because it's going to give tools to the health professionals that are there to help fix the people that are coming in when they're ready.
Right now, they can't consume cannabis at this lounge yet.
Yet. But hopefully that will change as time goes on. On to our last story, which is really a study that was done at the end of September. The science is clear. Cannabis is safer than tobacco. Well, we all knew that.
A mounting body of evidence finds the risks associated with cannabis smoke and tobacco smoke are far from equal. Nearly twice as many Americans believe that smoking cigarettes is more hazardous to your health than smoking cannabis, and they're right.
Yeah. Numerous studies assessing the long-term health impacts of cannabis smoke exposure believe the myth that cannabis is associated with the same sort of well-established adverse respiratory hazards of tobacco. For example, federally funded research at the University of California, LA, compared the lifetime risk of lung cancer among more than 2,000 long-term cannabis smokers, tobacco smokers, and non-smokers.
Investigators determined that those who regularly smoke cigarettes possess a 20-fold higher lung cancer risk than non-smokers. Those who only smoked cannabis had no elevated risk. Wow. We hypothesized that there would be a positive association between cannabis use and lung cancer, the study's lead author explained. What we found instead was no association at all, and even a suggestion of some protective effect.
Yes.
And we've heard of this for years.
Yes, but I mean, the government, I understand that the government wants to do their own studies, or the government or whatever. And I love that you get the scientists going in going, oh yeah, we're going to prove you cannabis users wrong. And we're going to show you exactly what you're doing to your lungs. You watch us go. And then they come back sheepishly going, well, we found that it's actually helping you.
Yeah.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. More recently, a team of health experts writing in the journal Chronic Obstructive Pulmonary Disease reported that neither former nor current cannabis smoking of any cumulative lifetime amount was associated with COPD progression or development. Hoorah!
Any cumulative lifetime amount. That's insane that they even said that in here.
I love it. Other studies indicate that cannabis smoke and tobacco smoke aren't equally carcinogenic, and that subjects who exclusively smoke cannabis have less exposure to harmful toxins and carcinogens than tobacco smokers. Some researchers have also theorized that cannabinoids' anti-cancer effects may offset some of the harms otherwise associated with inhaling smoke. Yes.
According to the findings of a recent paper published in the American Journal of Respiratory and Critical Care Medicine, it is increasingly clear that cannabis has different effects on lung functions compared to tobacco, and the effects of widespread cannabis use will not necessarily mirror the harms caused by tobacco smoking. A separate review paper published recently by researchers affiliated with the University of Arkansas is even more blunt. The data on cannabis contrasts starkly with the consistent demonstration of injury from tobacco, the greatest legalized killer in the world today. They concluded any possible toxicity of cannabis pales in comparison.
That is not to say that cannabis smoke exposure is altogether, innocuous. Cannabis smoke does share some of the same toxins and particulates that are found in tobacco smoke, and that's just plant matter, really. And some studies have linked cannabis smoking to temporary increases in sputum production and wheezing, as well as increased risk of bronchitis. Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. That said, exposure to combustive toxins can be significantly reduced by using a vaporizer. In laboratory studies, herbal cannabis vaporizers have been determined to be an effective and apparently safe vehicle for THC delivery that do not resolve in exposure to combustion gases.
Cannabis compounds can also be infused in a multitude of products that don't require smoking, including food products and drinks. The findings of these studies are clear and consistent. The risks associated with cannabis smoke and tobacco smoke are far from equal.
What a great story to finish up the day on and head into the weekend on. I freaking love it. I can't remember which one of us picked that story, but freaking kudos to us. Great story.
We had a story that was completely opposite of this one just a couple stories back.
Yeah, the CBD one coming to us. But, I like this one. It highlighted a few different studies. It talked about a few different universities doing it. It even stated at one point in time that the first study that they talked about, they were heading in there to prove that it does do all this terrible stuff. And they had to say, oops.
I think a lot of these researchers, after this legalization move, maybe about 20 years ago, kind of thought that they were going to go and get those people, right? They were going to go get them and prove everybody wrong, right?
Yeah, they were hired by the governments to do so. Hey, you scientist over there, listen, we need somebody back in what we're trying to do here. So go do a study and prove that, cannabis is bad. And they have to come back saying, yeah, dude, we can't.
And we've heard of studies the U.S. government did, and they just basically buried them. Anything positive about cannabis was buried for decades.
Yeah, and they put out these lies in documentaries and whatnot. Like, I had my mother, God rest her soul, come to me with, I don't know, you should watch this documentary. And then I would come to her with, yeah, but it's all wrong.
Yeah. It's all, but they make it sound like it's right. Like our whole lives. When I was
very convincing.
I'm an old guy. And when I was young, cannabis was the devil. It was everything. And you were going to go crazy and kill people if you smoked it.
Devil's lettuce. It was terrible. Yeah, no, I'm 52, and I was raised to be terrified of the stuff, and thankfully I wasn't, because it's probably what kept me alive all those years without knowing it, right? And I love this medication. I'm thankful for this medication, and I'm glad that the scientists are finally publicizing all of those studies and saying, hey, it's not bad.
Very bluntly, as they said in the story, basically saying if they spoke like me, they would just say, this is complete BS you've been fed. Yep.
But they have to keep it professional, and God bless them for it. But this does bring us to the end of our show, and what a great show for our viewers on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, cbgtv.com, Boxcast, paceradio.net, everywhere we are. For our friends over at Legacy 420, for our friends at the Hydroponics store. What is the name of the Hydroponics store? Can't remember. Hopefully it'll come to me. And Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Why does it keep escaping me? Oh, that's terrible. I gotta write it down. It's in all of our commercials.
Limestone City.
Limestone Hydroponics. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it'll be in the commercial after. But on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. And catch our next broadcast on Monday. They will be back. Reverend Kelly and Al, they had Monday off, of course, for Thanksgiving. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you. Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.